support Keep Smiling Adventures, and today we're going to do something a little bit different because if you watch the video on the main channel of the Bikepacking Wales, the Sundowners route, you'll know I currently have a couple of broken ribs and I cut on my liver because I had quite a bad crash, I would say, and yeah, I'm still in a bit of pain right now, so let's not make this video too long. But I thought it'd be quite fun to, well, interesting, maybe fun's not the right word, interesting to watch it back. I can sort of explain what was going through my mind and everything that happened. Apologies for all the noise outside. I live by a road, I don't normally film inside. So yeah, I guess the first thing to do is just watch the whole clip of the crash back, and let's just do that first. Right, here we go. Yeah, so that was the crash. As you can see, I landed on probably the worst thing you could land on, a boulder. Yeah, it's painful. So I think like what was going through my mind each step of the way, you can see here, I was actually towards the end of this ride. I had like maybe 40 miles to go. I wasn't going to finish that day. I was going to go a little bit further and then camp somewhere towards Cardiff. I was basically between Merthyr Tydfil and Aberdare. I literally just had this little descent to go down and I would have been at Aberdare. This trail, although it looks kind of flat on the camera because I'm using a GoPro and this wide angle makes everything look a bit flat, it is actually a downhill. It's nothing too technical. Well, it didn't feel like it was too technical at the time. According to Komoot, it's around 7% decline descent, so it's not overly steep, but it was a downhill. I'm not 100% sure how fast I was going either. I did slow just before the crash, but so let's just run through this and explain what was going on, because right here as I'm starting, you can see I'm not actually even on the bike here. I have to get off to sort of make my way around to go under this tunnel, which is, it's fine. Just noticed as well my rear light isn't even plugged in. So, I'm looking at this trail at this point thinking, oh, it's fine. I was filming because I was just going to do this last little descent and I would have been into Aberdare at that point. So that would have been nice and easy. Get on my bike. I'm like, okay, this is fine. It's not rough, it's not technical. It's a little steep-ish, maybe 7%, but it's nothing. I've been over way harder stuff. I can see there's some obstacles along the way, but it's pretty open at this point. And then you get to about here, and you see some big boulders and lots of like trees broken on the side. So you're going to the right anyway, which is absolutely beautiful. A beautiful bit of trail. It's nice. It's basically a path at this point. There's no water, a few little twigs and stuff. On the left here though, this stuff, especially now looking at it, it's like incredibly slippy, and when the paramedics come, they were like struggling to stand up and they were having to be a bit careful because it was just like an ice rink. So at this point you can see on the left here, it's incredibly slippery, but I'm like on the right, it's fine, it's no problem. And then it looks like it starts to dry out towards the left. And at this point, I'm making a decision. I can see here I'm going about 11 miles an hour, so I'm not even going fast. And I have two options. I'm going to go left, or I'm going to go right. You can see the boulder. I mean, the left is way more open, spacious. It seems easier for me, so that's obviously why I went that way. It doesn't really show that great on the camera because it's wide angle and stuff, but there's a bit of a drop here. It's just like a tiny little curve, it's nothing. But the reason I didn't go right was because you've got all these tree branches like sticking out here and here, and generally speaking, it's quite easy just to get snagged up on them. And obviously I'm looking at this boulder, it's just a bit of a tighter bit to go through. I'm not like taking any risks. I'm thinking I'm not taking any risks. I'm just cruising on this trip. The sun's shining, it's beautiful. So I decided to go left. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. I should have gone right. And I get to here and it feels okay to me. It feels fine. But it's probably around here that I start feeling my back wheel sliding a little bit. I don't feel quite in control. And then my front wheel, I think it's about here. I think it's here. It slips. And then I think if I move it in segments slowly, you can sort of see the point where it just goes. I'm actually starting to try and turn the bike to come back around this rock. You can sort of see obviously where the path goes, that's where I need to go. So I'm meant to be going right. And at this point my bike is just sliding. It's not rolling anymore, it's sliding. And then I think there it grips because I'm falling. I'm already falling, and at this point time really does just go slow because I see this rock and I'm thinking, well, I'm falling, I hope I don't hit that rock, but it's getting closer and closer to me. I'm already halfway down. I think my back end is already sliding out. I'm like, And every time as this moment is just going slower and slower, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm hitting that rock. This is going to hurt. I put my hand out to try and brace for impact, but this is probably, if I'd probably tucked up my arm, this might have been better, but obviously you just do what your body naturally wants to do. And I've tried to put my hand on top of it. Again, like I said, I wasn't going that fast. By that time, I was probably going like 10 miles an hour, if that. And as I've obviously tried to put my hand on top of the rock, which was slippery, and you can see my hand slide, and my arm is going over the rock at this point. And probably at this point, I'm feeling it in my ribs, and it's gone underneath into like my stomach area. It's not just hit my ribs directly on, it's kind of gone underneath my ribs. I'm guessing that's obviously how my liver got cut, but also it's kind of hit the two bottom ribs as well. So let's just play it from here. Let's have a look at that rock. You can see it's got a nice, really nice sharp ledge on it. I've sort of hit here, this sharp bit here, I think is the bit that's gone underneath my stomach. It's actually starting to hurt just thinking about it. The screaming is uncontrollable. I didn't even realise I was screaming this much. It wasn't until I watched this video back that I realised I was screaming that much. There's obviously a lot of panic, your body goes into shock, and at this point I'm just letting my body do what it needs to do before trying to just breathe and just get as much control of the situation as possible. I could feel something was wrong. I was pretty sure my ribs were broken, and it wasn't so much the ribs that were hurting me so much, it felt the rock that had gone underneath my rib cage basically and into my stomach. That was the bit that was hurting, and it just, something in my mind was saying something's not right there. I could feel something was not right there, which would obviously turn out be the cut on the liver and it bleeding a little bit inside. Looking back at it, which obviously hindsight, beautiful thing, if I had just gone right here at this point, if I had just gone right down under this gravelly section here and gone to the right, I probably wouldn't have crashed at all, because it was just these wet patches, they were just like ice. And also, something to note, if this rock wasn't here, this would have ended very differently. I probably would have just had a few cuts and bruises. I do not believe I would have cracked my ribs and cut my liver. But you know, it's just these things happens. And, so at this point, you can see I'm basically on my phone to the ambulance crew. Before getting to this point, I had to just like calm myself down. I knew something was wrong. I knew I couldn't really move at this point. I knew I was in a comfortable position, but I could feel something bad inside me, which turned out to be obviously the cut on the liver, and it was bleeding a little bit. So I just basically had to calm myself down. From here, I was thinking, right, what's the best way to do this? Obviously, I call an ambulance. I kind of knew where I was roughly, but I needed to like get that location perfectly. So what I actually did wasn't phone the ambulance first. I originally phoned Nathan, who is the guy who made these routes. This isn't his fault or anything. It's not your fault, Nathan. But yeah, so I rang him because he lives quite local. So I was thinking, if it's going to be a case of trying to tell somebody exactly where I am, it's much easier if I can just get him to come towards me, and if I need an ambulance, then the ambulance can follow him. It's much easier that way. Unfortunately, ironically, he would be away that day on a emergency first aid course or something along that lines, ironically. So ended up using what 3 words, calling the ambulance crew, giving them as close to the location I could. They actually said to me on the phone, like, you know, they gave me everything, you know, keep breathing, you know, look after, you know, all the normal stuff to keep me calm. But they also said, and they were going to send obviously an ambulance, but they also said it might take up to 3 hours. When they said that, I was like, oh no, I'm not going to sit here for 3 hours. Like, I mean, I'm going to have to, but I'm not going to. So once I put the phone down, I had a little whistle on my bag. So I was blowing that a few times as much as I could. It was kind of hard to blow because it was kind of hurting. But yeah, I do that a bit. I wasn't there that long. I was probably there for 10 to 15 minutes. And then a dog came up, and I saw this dog like right in front of my face. I was like, oh wow, that's good. That's good news. I didn't know where this dog had come from. I didn't know where the person was, so I just shouted out help a bunch of times. And then luckily this lady, Jane, thank you, came up and she was there. She didn't really have to do too much in terms of like, you know, call an ambulance or anything, but just as she arrived, somebody would shout my name, and that was the first responder, paramedic, shouting Josh, because the location I'd given him on what 3 words was slightly off. It was pretty close. So a few minutes later he arrived, put a cannula in me, which was quite hard to get in because my hands were a bit cold at the time. Had to cut my bag off to get it off me. Luckily he didn't have to cut my jacket. We were trying to avoid cutting everything we could, but you got to do what you got to do when you have a crash like this, unfortunately. So yeah, my bag would be cut off. They put some, I'm not really sure what it was in there. I think it was like liquid paracetamol or something. But the problem is, in this location, now it wasn't too far away from the road. It was maybe like, I don't know, 50 meters. But this, it was on a bit of a hill. The terrain was like impossible, like really, really slippery. The paramedics couldn't just like put me in a chair or stretching me down, so I had to walk, I had to get up. They obviously had to help me get up, and they would hold me and support me. I'd have to walk down this hill, and it was excruciating pain. After the excruciating little walk down to the ambulance, get into that, and then I could have some morphine, but also just to state, Welsh roads are tiny and they are bumpy, and in the ambulance was probably one of the most painful journeys of my life, because we had to go down this tiny little lane, and the ambulance was like swinging around, and I was in this strapped up but not too tight because they couldn't strap me up too tight, so I was moving around a bit to go to, and I went back to Merthyr Tydfil Hospital. I can't remember the exact one, I think it was Prince something, and I would have a CT scan, I think it was. That's where they found out broken ribs and some bleeding and a cut on my liver. So that was the ribs, painful, but obviously broken ribs, they'll fix themselves most of the time, as long as they're not too broken, and you won't have to have metal and stuff. However, the concerning thing was the cut on the liver. Wasn't sure if it was still bleeding, wasn't sure if it was going to continue bleeding, so I had to be transferred to Cardiff, which funny enough is where this ride was meant to finish, so I did technically finish, just in a different way. I didn't have too long to wait, maybe 40 minutes to wait for an ambulance to then take me from Merthyr Tydfil to Cardiff. That was another bumpy ride, painful ride, but on the way to where we needed to go. So that is the crash. It just happened so fast. It was on a bit of a descent. I wasn't going overly fast. It could have been much worse. Even one of the surgeons said he's seen people go down with less than that and have spinal injuries, and could have hit my head, and that could have been even worse. So all things considering, although it's painful, it hurt like hell, and I'm probably going to be off the bike for probably another month to 2 months. I'm not sure yet. I'll just take it as it comes. But yeah, that was the crash. Hopefully I'll be back on the trails soon. And thank you all for the support. Thank you to the NHS, all the doctors, nurses. So yeah, that was the crash. Hopefully it won't take too long to recover. I'm probably gonna have another month to 6 more weeks off the bike, I'd imagine. Hopefully I'll be able to get on the bike and do some small riding first, and then get back on to do some big adventures, because I have so many big adventures planned this year. So this is going to set me back a little bit, but we'll get back on the bike, and until next time, keep smiling, enjoy the adventure. Peace.